SAB are best known for their lineup of 3D helicopters. However, in 2018, they entered the jet scene. At Jet Power that year, their first ever event, they became the stars of the show, with 3 brand new airplanes, the Tortuga, which can be powered either by electric or turbine power, and their 2 showstopper aircraft, the Havoc and the Drake. They became the stars of the show because they brought out something entirely new, airplane shapes and designs that none of us have seen before in modelling, as well as the amazing show that they actually put on with the music, the smoke, and of course the Italian commentator going absolutely nuts. Fast forward another 12 months to Jet Power 2019. Everyone wanted to see what the SAB guys could pull out of the hat, and they didn't disappoint. They brought out the slightly smaller turbine 3D Lizzard, and oh yeah, they launched it off the back of a freaking tank. A couple of months later, I actually got to spend some time up close and personal with both the Lizzard and the guys behind SAB, and it wasn't until then that I realised quite how good, or possibly even how important, this new model could actually be. Let me explain. Normally, when you want a 3D jet that flies half decently well, you need to spend huge amounts of money to buy something like that, a J10 or a Mephisto. However, the Lizzard uses a much smaller turbine. I'm going to be using a JetCat P130. That means it's not going to run through 7 or 8 litres of fuel every flight either. All of this sums up to the fact that a lot more people are going to be able to have a fun 3D jet to fly without having to worry about spending the kids' inheritance on it. It's also about the only 3D jet that doesn't come with a paragraph in the instruction book which says if you fly quickly you void the warranty and the plane will self-destruct. The Lizzard will fly crazy fast as well as doing 3D. And that brings me to my third and probably most important point. That makes this plane super fun as well as being super different. All you need to do is look at it and you'll see exactly why. So, based on all that, I had one decision to make, and that was, how quickly could I order it? Very quick. Let's have a look what's in the box. We have some really easily identifiable parts, such as this, the main fuselage. This is actually going to locate all 3 of the retracts, which means once built, we don't need a cradle for it. We can actually just rest it on its own wheels if they're extended. We then have, of course, our set of wings. We have 2 rudders and 2 canards. It then has the top plate, which is going to hide the fuel tank, another top plate, which is going to hide the turbine, and then we have the whole front end, which is removed for refueling, charging batteries, and just in general really easily getting to all of your electronics. The whole thing just slots into place with 2 pins and 1 screw at the back. Something like that. As I'm going to be using a turbine, I also have the adapter kit, which includes a rather neat small UAT and of course the vector thrust module, which is just going to screw onto the back there. Now, this particular jet, for some reason, it just doesn't look light. However, I've come to the conclusion that that's because of the matte paint and the colour scheme that it's in. I mean, I've actually weighed some of these parts, and we have the rudders, which are barely 100 grams. We have this whole front section, which doesn't even reach 300 grams. So the whole thing isn't actually heavy. So it really looks good for what we're wanting to do with it, which is fly some really crazy 3D. Now, we can also tell that these guys are used to making helicopters, as the accessory pack looks like it came out of a helicopter. We have a load of small little screws and parts, neatly bagged, tagged and numbered, so we can follow the instructions and only open the parts that we need when we need them. So the whole of this build should be very easy to follow. We'll find out as we go along. Now, I am actually filming this whilst the coronavirus epidemic is happening, so I don't have all the parts that I would like to, but I have received my MKS servos for this project, so we're going to start with those and at least get this thing started. Hopefully we'll be able to have it finished by the time we can go back out again and we can then actually go fly it. Having had a quick look through the manual and what parts I've already received to be able to finish the plane, I figured the best place to start would be the wings. So I've installed MKS HV737s, which are a mini size servo which keeps the weight down. However, they're a full metal case, they're still more than strong enough for this application, and they're blisteringly quick, so they're ideal. All that I needed was one servo per wing, one servo arm, and everything else comes included with the kit. Assembly went really well. After all, we are only installing one servo. All we had to do was find the bag that had the accessories in it, which include the servo plate, brackets, and all the screws that hold everything together. Now, it's worth pointing out that two different sizes of brackets are included, one for standard size servos and one for mini servos, which are the ones that I had to use. The hole for the servo arm, I did have to expand it a little bit, just so that my particular servo arm wouldn't rub on the bottom. However, that will vary depending on what servo you use and particularly what servo arm you have, as mine sits particularly low. All of that then just gets screwed onto the wing and attached to the flying surface with the included pushrod and ball links. Again, I did modify one of the two ball links here simply because my particular servo arm has a bigger hole than the ball link that was included, and I wanted it to match up so it could be nice and tight. However, if your arm has a slightly smaller hole than mine did, you'll be fine and you can use all the stock equipment. The control horn itself is a really nice detail that it comes pre-installed and pre-glued, so no hassle, just attach everything up and you're ready to go. From that bag of accessories for the wing, everything was really obvious what it was for, except for this piece. Any guesses? Well, I had to look in the manual to find out what this actually does, but it's so simple and genius. It actually goes on the end of the wing tube, and it's what keeps the wing in place when you go fly. The fuselage has a small latch on it with a spring, which goes through the centre of it and prevents the wing from being able to come out. That means that you don't have to spend a load of time putting screws in at the flying field when you get there, or taking them out again when you want to go home. All you do is pull down the latch, put the wing in, let go, snaps into place, wing's not going anywhere. It's that kind of detail that I absolutely love, because it just means we can go to the flying field and fly. There's no time wasted in setup, which is absolutely brilliant. So, that's the wings done, on to the next part. Continuing with installing servos, I've moved on to the two rudders, which went together even easier than the wings did, as this time my chosen servo just slotted in perfectly first time. So it was just a case of locating the right bag for the fins, take out all the appropriate parts and bolt everything together. And then the end result looks something like this. As you can see, all very neat and clean. Now, this time the servo that I'm using is the MKS HV6130, which is a thin profile servo, which is ideal as it's a thin profile rudder. However, it's still more than strong enough and very quick, so again, it's ideal for this situation. Now, some people may choose not to install a servo at all, as the vector rudder can do a similar kind of function, in which case you can actually use all the same parts to use one of the push rods just to lock that into place so it becomes all part and parcel of the fin and doesn't move. Personally, I like seeing things waggle, so I'm installing these two small light servos. So I've done one, you've seen what it looks like, time to build the second one and then we can get on to something else. There we go. One finished fin. Finishing up with the flying surfaces, we have the canards from the front. Now, I'm going to be running mine with another MKS servo, the HV737, which is another mini servo just like we have in the wings. Now, I didn't realise when ordering the servos that this plane comes with a cutout ready for a standard size servo for the canards. So I'm hoping that I can get just enough wood underneath this thing to be able to screw it into place without having to make an extra plate. I think I'm going to be able to, so that should be nice and easy. Setting it up is actually just a case of slotting the canards in, joining them with all the parts that come in all the usual bags as we're now used to. Now, the joiner and all the accessories that come with it look really heavy duty, but they're actually surprisingly light, so once this thing's in place and tight and clamped down, none of this is going anywhere. So let's get to it. And that's why you check with the push rod which way around the servo goes, because otherwise you install it back to front. But to my own defence, I am building an airplane while trying to make a video for you all, so that's my excuse and I'm sticking to it. Give us a minute, we'll put it right. That's better. Servo's now in the right way round, push rod's now the ideal length, and everything's working just as we planned it should have done in the first place. Brilliant. Of course, I could just edit that bit out. Oh well. Now it is just worth pointing out that in that video you saw me install all the nuts and bolts, but I didn't glue or Loctite anything in place. That's because I've left them loose enough to be able to adjust it, just to make sure that both surfaces are completely level, they're at the right distance and everything works bind free. Once I'm happy that that's all in place, I will be removing each and every one of those bolts again, adding in a drop of Loctite and then crunching them down again into their final position. After all, we don't want to have to try and move stuff that's already been made permanent. And that's it for this video. Part 1 of the build of the SAB Lizzard is complete. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave us a like. Subscribe to the channel if you aren't already, as we're going to be continuing the build of the Lizzard here on the channel, as well as checking out my other video series, such as the Tuesday, where we have cool tech tips and tutorials, or Sunday, when we have flying and event coverage. You're not going to want to miss out. Loads of cool stuff right here on the channel. So, get subscribing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one where we'll continue building the Lizzard. I'm Martin Pickering, and I really hope that you've enjoyed this video. Make sure to come back every Tuesday for a new episode of Cool Tech Tips and Tutorials, and on Sundays for flying videos and event coverage. Or hit that subscribe button and the bell that's next to it in order to receive a reminder when the next video is uploaded. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.